Hey y'all! Today's objective is the distributive property. If you have had experience with the distributive property, then great. Today I'm just going to show you one little tweak towards the end that is new, but if you already know the distributive property and collecting or combining like terms, collecting like terms, combining like terms, then this maybe will be a review for you. So some vocabulary. Pause it, get your vocabulary, and then press play so you can hear my explanation. Terms are separated by a plus or a minus. So a plus sign or a minus sign are what separate terms. Terms can be numbers, numerals, or variables, and numbers and variables together can be terms, but a term is separated by a plus sign or a minus sign. Like terms are identical. They have identical variables and that include even exponents. So you might have, like you could have a 3x and then a 3x squared. Those are not like terms because they are not identical. Identical would be 3x and a 2x. Those are like terms because the variable is identical. Identical. If you don't have a variable, if all you have are numbers, those are also like terms, and you can add just the numbers together. A coefficient is the number multiplied by the variable. So in this example, 3 is a coefficient, 2 is a coefficient. You could have a negative 5w, then negative 5 is a coefficient, and if all you had was a y, like if that's the only term you had was a y, the coefficient would be a 1 because it's like there's an imaginary 1 times y. So it's that number that's being multiplied by the variable. A constant is just a number, no variable, just a number. So a lot of times you'll see like 2x plus 3. So there are two terms because they're separated by a plus sign, and 3 is the constant. There's no variable on it, it's just a number. And then distributive property is when you multiply a term by either a sum or a difference. And so I'm going to show you that. Generally, it's going to be in parentheses, and you're going to multiply a number, a term, by sum or a difference. Okay? So, example 1, the distributive property. I'm just going to jump right in and show you the distributive property. Again, the distributive property is when you multiply a term by a sum or difference. In example A, we have a sum, x plus 10. Well, we cannot add x plus 10 because they're not like terms. We cannot say x plus 10 is 10x because that's multiplying. X plus 10 is just x plus 10. But we can distribute this negative 5 to both terms. So we're going to multiply negative 5 times x, and that's negative 5x. And then we're going to multiply negative 5 times 10, and that's negative 50. Now, we cannot combine these because they're not like terms, so my answer is just negative 5 plus 50. Example B, I have a difference in parentheses, k minus 4, and I'm going to multiply, I'm going to distribute the negative 8. So when I distribute, I get negative 8k. Negative 8 times k is negative 8k. Negative 8 times negative 4, this is a common mistake. People will forget this negative. Negative 8 times negative 4 is a positive 32. All right? And then C, it's like too far, I can't reach it. We have a difference, and we're going to distribute the 3. So 3 times 2g is 6g. And 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. And then again, I can't combine them because they're not like terms. So I can't combine a g and a constant. So I just leave it 6g minus 18. Right? So example 2, just some practicing combining like terms. I abbreviate combining like terms CLT, combining like terms. Maybe you've heard collecting like terms. I like combining them. So again, you have to have the same identical variable, even their exponents have to be the same. So in example A, I have 12a plus 3a. The a's are the exact same, so I can combine them, and I'm just going to add the coefficients. When you combine like terms, you're adding the coefficients, so I get 15a. Now my a stays the same, it doesn't change, and I just add my coefficients. Example B, I've got a couple of things. Negative 7w plus 10 minus 3w. That plus 10 is a constant. It doesn't have a variable. So I'm going to combine my w's. I have a negative 7w and a negative 3w. So negative 7 minus 3w, because that's a negative. Negative 7 minus 3 is negative 10w, and then we bring our plus 10 down. All right, and I can't combine them because they're not like terms. If that had w, then I could, but because this is a constant, I just leave it like that. C, m minus p plus 2m minus 4p. So I'm going to start with my m's, and I like to underline or circle my like terms to just help me stay focused. M plus 2m is 3m, because remember this has a 1, it's 1m and 2m makes 3m. And then I have a negative 1p and a negative 4p. So when you combine negative 1 and negative 4, we get negative 5p. And a general math rule, mathematicians like things orderly. The general math rule is when you have various and multiple variables, you go in alphabetical order. That way it just keeps everything the same. All right, so you try D. Pause it, and you try D. All right, so I have my x's that I'm going to combine, negative 3 and negative 1, so that makes negative 4x. And then I have my constants. I have a plus 5 and a negative 7. So it's a negative 7. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. And there is my answer, negative 4x minus 2. Unfortunately, combining like terms and distributive property, you can't, it's not like equations where you can just plug it in and check it, but you can undo your distributive property, which is called factoring, if you wanted to check it that way. All right, so here is the so here's kind of putting it all together, distributing and combining like terms. So we're going to distribute the 2, and I'm going to get 8 plus 2x plus x. 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times x is 2x. And then I have combining like terms. So 2x plus 1x, remember this is 1x, would be 3x, and then you're doing down your plus 8. So there I've distributed and combined like terms. An example B, I'm going to distribute my negative 5, and negative 5 times 3x is negative 15x. Negative 5 times negative 6, now remember that's negative, is positive 30 plus 7x. Once you've distributed, you can combine like terms. So I have 2x terms. Negative 15 plus 7 is negative 8x, and then you bring down your plus 30, which is a constant, and that just kind of hangs out. All right, example C doesn't have any distributive property, so we just go to combining like terms. I have a y and a y. 5y minus 3, or 5 and negative 3 would be 2y. I have a z, and I don't have any other z, so I'm just going to bring that down. And then I have a constant, minus 7, and so it's okay to bring those things down. So there's 3 terms in this expression. There's a term 2y, there's a term 9z, and there's a term negative 7, because it's split up between a plus sign and a minus sign. All right, so you try D. Pause it. You try D. Press play when you're ready to see. So I'm going to distribute the negative 6, and I'm going to get negative 12x plus 24, because negative 6 and negative 4. Then I'm going to bring down everything else. Now I'm going to see what I can combine. So I have negative 12 and 8. Negative 12 and 8 would be negative 4x. And if it helps you, just write it down on the side. Then I have 24 and negative 10. 24 and negative 10 is 14. And I cannot go any further because those are not like terms. All right, I hope you got that one correct. So here is kind of the new part, maybe that you have not seen or been introduced to. This is simplify the expression, same directions. The only new thing is there's no number outside, well, no number that you see outside the parentheses. So when you look at this, you might think, I want to distribute my 5, but it's not right next to the parentheses. So I felt like I wanted to do some examples like this separate. What number is right here? You see 5 minus, but we don't see a number. So we're going to put a 1, because there is an imaginary 1 right there. We don't write it, but it means 1. So now I can distribute a negative 1 to everything in the parentheses. I'm going to go ahead and bring my 5 down. So negative 1 times 2j is negative 2j, because negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Negative 1 times negative 4 is a positive 4. So I've distributed a negative 1 to the things in my parentheses, and this is a difference. Now I can combine like terms. I have 5 positives and 4 positives. This minus 2j means that 2j is negative, and 5 plus 4 is 9. Let's do that again. Let's do that again together. Notice I have a minus in front of my parentheses. I don't have like a 2 or a 3 or something right here to distribute. So I'm going to distribute a 1. And then I can move on with my problem. Like you have to put a 1 there at the beginning until you can see this. I'm going to bring down my 2c. Negative 1 times 5f is negative 5f. Negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And then I'm going to bring down my 8c. So the distributive property is done. Now I can combine like terms. I have 2c and 8c. So that's 10c. I only have this one f, so I'm just going to bring that down, and then I only have that constant. And again, my variables are in alphabetical order. C comes before F. All right, you try example C, and then press play when you're ready to see the answer. So this one has 3 distributing. So I get 5x plus 10, because 5 times x, 5 times 2, minus y minus 3. Negative 1 times y is negative y. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times negative 5y is a positive 5y, because a negative times a negative is a positive. All right, we got a lot going on, so let's do our x's first. I have 5x here and a negative x. So 5 minus 1 is 4, so this is 4x. Now let's do our y's. I have a negative y and a 5y. So negative 1 and 5. So you see how I'm writing it down? That's totally acceptable. Would be 4y. And then 10, I'll put boxes, 10 minus 3. 10 minus 3 is 7. All right, so I hope you got that. If you have questions, we'll go over this in class, and I will see you soon.